The kind of evening where the wind felt tired and the sky wore a gray sweater of clouds. Inside Rivertown Diner, the booths were mostly empty. Ceiling fans spun slowly. The air smelled like onions, grease, and coffee that had been reheated twice too many times. A radio near the register played old country songs, the kind nobody listened to, until life felt too heavy. Behind the counter stood Haley Cummings, 22, a waitress with a messy ponytail, pink nails, and a mouth that often moved faster than her brain. She wasn't rude. Not really. But she had a laugh that could slice through the quiet like a butter knife across burnt toast. And when she laughed, she didn't cover her mouth or whisper apologies. She just let it out. Tonight she wasn't feeling much like working. Tips had been low. Her shoes were worn out. And table 6 had left her a Bible verse instead of a tip. "I swear," she muttered, snapping her gum, "if one more weird dude walks in here, I'm flipping this apron and heading home." At that exact moment, the bell over the door jingled. He walked in. Man, maybe mid-60s. Long gray beard. Heavy coat. Boots crusted with dried mud. Face half hidden under a battered ball cap. And smell. It was the kind that told stories of rain, concrete, and too many nights spent without a roof. People at the 2 nearest tables shifted. Someone coughed. Even the cook peeked through the pass window. Haley laughed. Not loud. Not on purpose. But loud enough for someone to hear. "Table 9, the manager said quietly, nodding toward the man. Haley rolled her eyes and grabbed a menu. "Guess I'm getting hazard pay tonight," she muttered. She walked up to the man, not even looking at him properly. "Water or coffee?" she asked, pen already tapping her notepad. The man didn't say a word. He just looked up. Eyes pale blue, faded like denim left out in the sun too long. Then he lifted one hand slowly, not to shake, not to point, just to pull back the sleeve of his coat. His wrist was thin, weathered, and on it, tattooed in dark, faded ink, was something Haley didn't expect to see. Her smile dropped, her pen stopped, and for a second, even the old fan above her seemed to go still. The tattoo read, L.J. Cummings, February 14, 99. Always keep her safe. Her last name, her birthday, and her father's initials. Haley Cummings didn't speak for a few seconds. She just stared at the man's wrist, at the words burned into his skin like time had tried to erase them but couldn't. L.J. Cummings, February 14, 99. Always keep her safe. That was her birthday, her last name, and her dad's initials. But that couldn't be him. Her father, Landon James Cummings, had died when she was 9. That's what she'd always been told. Car crash. That's what her mom said. He was in the military before that. But Haley never saw a uniform. Never saw a grave either. She just remembered that one day he stopped coming home. Now this man, dirty, quiet, wrinkled like an old flannel shirt left out in the rain, was sitting right in front of her. She took a shaky step back. Do I know you?" she asked, voice lower now, no sarcasm left. The man didn't blink. He just lowered his sleeve slowly, carefully, like it hurt to hide the words again. "You used to call me Daddy." That sentence didn't sound like thunder. It sounded worse, like silence after thunder. The kind of silence that leaves your heart unsure if it should beat faster or stop completely. Haley's stomach dropped. No one at the diner noticed. The cook shouted for pickup. The door opened behind her. People walked in, unaware that the ground just shifted beneath her feet. She looked at him again. Really looked. His cheekbones, high and sharp. His eyes sad but strong. The way he held his hands, still and folded like he was used to waiting. "Your name," she whispered. "Tell me your name." "Landon James Cummings," he said softly. "Used to be just Dad. If I'm not too late." She stepped back again. No," she said louder than she meant to. "No, this can't be happening." The manager, Rita, peeked from behind the counter. "You all right, Haley?" Yeah. Just taking his order." Rita didn't ask more. She had her own problems like rent and bills and a dishwasher who never showed up on Tuesdays. Haley turned back to the man. "You're not supposed to be here," she said under her breath. "You died." Landon nodded slowly. "Figured they told you that." "They? Your mom. Her boyfriend at the time. Maybe even the lawyers. They made it stick, didn't they?" Haley's knees felt like wet paper. She gripped the back of the booth. "You can't just show up after all these years and expect." "I don't expect anything," Landon said, voice calm. "But I saw your name on your apron when I walked in. And then I saw you. I had to know if you were still okay." "I'm not," she snapped. A second later, she regretted how sharp it came out. She took a breath, lowered her voice. "You can't just walk in here and blow up my entire world." Landon nodded. "Then I'll eat my meal, quietly, and leave. But if you want to know the truth, I'll tell it." Her hands were still shaking when she walked away to pour a glass of water. Her smile was gone. Her usual swingy walk replaced with small, heavy steps. She didn't laugh again for the rest of the hour. She didn't tell anyone. She just served tables, filled drinks, and stole glances at the man in the corner who didn't fit in, but somehow felt like a piece of something she'd lost long ago. Everything was too loud. Too fast. "I couldn't sleep. I couldn't be touched." Haley nodded slowly. "I remember you yelling at the microwave. You said it was too bright." He chuckled faintly. "Yeah, that sounds right. Your mom was patient for a while. But I started drinking. Quietly at first. Then not so quiet. You hit rock bottom." "No," he said. "Rock bottom hit me." Haley tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "I was driving one night. Drunk. Angry. I'd just been told I wasn't fit to be around you. So I kept driving. I don't even remember hitting the brakes. Just smoke. Less. Lights." He stared. "I thought you died in a car crash." "I did crash," he said. "But I walked away. Barely. Woke up in the hospital. And your mom's lawyer showed up with papers. Said I could avoid jail time, but only if I agreed to disappear." "What?" "They called it a protection order. Said I was unstable. If I fought it, it would go public. You'd be dragged through court." Signed. And left. Haley's heart raced. Her ears were ringing. "All these years," she whispered. "You've been out there." He nodded. "In shelters. Couches. Sometimes on the streets. Sometimes sober. Sometimes not." She stared at him for a long moment. "I don't know if I can forgive you." "I'm not asking you to," Landon said gently. "I'm just asking for a chance to prove I'm not the man they painted me to be." Her eyes softened. "Just barely." "Why now?" she asked. "Why tonight?" "Because last week," he said, "I found a letter. One you wrote. You were 10. You left it at your grandma's house. Said you missed me. Said you hoped I was warm." Haley blinked, stunned. "You read that?" He nodded. "That letter saved me." Again. The clock struck 8:27 p.m. Somewhere someone dropped a fork. But in booth 9 something else dropped. The first wall between a lost father and a daughter who stopped believing in hope. It was nearly closing time. The chairs were stacked on clean tables. The radio had gone quiet, and the soda fountain hissed like it was tired too. Haley Cummings stood outside Rivertown Diner, arms crossed tight, phone pressed to her ear. Her voice shook. Not with fear but with something worse, uncertainty. "Yeah," she said. "I'll be there soon. Just leave the porch light on." Landon stood a few feet away, hands in his coat pockets. He didn't ask questions. Didn't press. Haley hung up the call, took a deep breath and turned to him. "I'm going to her house. Me mum's. I need to hear what she says. I need to look her in the face." Landon nodded. "Do you want me to come?" She hesitated, then nodded once. "Not in. But close." 20 minutes later, they pulled up outside a 2-bedroom house on Marigold Street, just a mile from the elementary school Haley went to. It looked the same. Same chipped mailbox. Same wind chime on the porch. Same dog barking next door like it owned the block. Haley stepped out. Landon stayed in the car. Truck window cracked open just enough to feel the night air. He watched her walk up the steps like someone who used to belong there but wasn't sure anymore. Her mother, Sharon Cummings, opened the door. Hair in rollers. Wine glass in hand. "Well, this is a surprise." "We need to talk," Haley said flatly. Sharon stepped aside. "Make it quick. I've got work in the morning." Inside the house was clean but cold. Too clean. Like someone had scrubbed the truth off the walls. They sat at the kitchen table. Haley didn't waste time. "Why did you tell me my dad was dead?" Sharon blinked. "Excuse me. You heard me." Sharon shifted in her seat. "I didn't lie." "Not exactly." Haley's voice cracked. "Not exactly. I told you he wasn't coming back. That's the truth. You told me he died." "I told you what you needed to hear," Sharon said, voice sharp now. "You were 9. He was drunk. He was angry. He almost hit me that night." "He never hit you. You don't know that. I know what you told me. And I know what he just told me." Sharon slammed her glass down. "He's back." "Are you serious?" Haley's eyes flared. "He's been back. Sleeping under bridges while I grew up thinking he was in a grave." "He could have called," Sharon spat. "He did," Haley snapped. "You had lawyers. You shut him out." Sharon stood. "I did what I had to do to protect you." "From what?" Haley rose too. "From the only person who ever made me feel safe. From a man who tattooed my birthday on his wrist so he wouldn't forget what mattered." Sharon didn't reply. "Because truth doesn't fight back when it knows it's caught." "I want you to know something," Haley said, voice low now. "If he had really left us, if he had just vanished, I would have hated him forever. But now I know the only person who walked away without a fight was you." Sharon's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. But no words came out. Because sometimes silence is all guilt has left to say. Haley turned, walked out the door and didn't look back. Outside, Landon leaned against the truck, arms crossed tight. She stopped in front of him. "You hungry?" she asked. He blinked. "I could eat." They drove in silence for a while. Nothing heavy. Just the kind of silence that happens when two people have said too much, but still want to sit beside each other anyway. They ended up at a gas station diner. Not fancy, not fast, but open. And sometimes open was all you needed. They split a burger. 1 milkshake. 2 straws. Like something from a memory that hadn't happened yet, but maybe was starting to. "I'm not ready to call you Dad," Haley said, picking at a fry. "I'm not ready to earn it either," Landon replied. "But you're trying." "I am." She nodded. "That's a start." They pulled into the far corner of an empty lot behind an old storage unit just off Bridgewater Road. The streetlight above flickered like it wasn't sure whether to work or give up. "This is it," Landon said, putting the truck in park. Haley looked out the window. There wasn't much to see. Just a row of dented metal units, a dumpster leaning sideways, and a faded red sign that read, "All safe storage. First month free." "You live here?" she asked. "Unit B14, he nodded. "Been here for a few months. The manager doesn't ask questions, long as I sweep out the leaves once in a while." She turned to him slowly. "You sleep inside a storage unit?" He shrugged. "I've had worse." Haley stared for a long moment. "Can I see it?" Landon hesitated. "It's not much. I've seen worse." He unlocked the padlock and rolled up the door with a soft rattle. Inside was a small cot made of plywood and old cushions. A toolbox, a stack of paperbacks, a folded American flag in a plastic crate. One wall had 3 pictures taped to it, one of a baby in a pink beanie. The dinner rush never really came. Rivertown Diner wasn't the kind of place that got busy unless church just let out or the highway shut down. By 7:35 p.m., the place had thinned out. 3 tables. 2 coffees. One man sitting in the corner with a past that didn't match his present. Haley Cummings stood behind the counter, her hands wrapped tight around a coffee pot that had gone cold. She wasn't moving. She wasn't blinking much either. Her eyes kept drifting toward table 9, where Landon James Cummings, the man she hadn't seen in 13 years, the man she was told had died in a car crash, was sipping water like he belonged there. He didn't look at her, didn't wave, didn't push, just sat quietly, waiting like a man who knew how long healing could take, and how rare it was when it showed up. She finally walked over. "Ribeye," she said quietly. "Medium rare. That's what I remember, right?" Landon's eyes met hers. "You remember that? Only meal I ever saw you eat." He nodded, voice steady. "Still my favorite." She jotted it down on the notepad she wasn't really using and slid the order into the kitchen window. The cook Miguel raised an eyebrow. "You ordering for ghosts now?" Haley didn't answer. She just kept walking. 5 minutes later, she returned to table 9. She didn't sit, just leaned one hand on the booth like standing made it easier to leave if things got too heavy. "Tell me the truth," she said. "All of it." Landon looked up. "You sure?" "No. But I need it anyway." He sighed, then started slow. "I didn't die, Haley. But someone wanted me to disappear. And I let them." Her arms crossed, unconsciously, like a child bracing for news she didn't want but already suspected. "I was a soldier. Overseas. Afghanistan. Long deployments. Came back in 2011 with more scars than my uniform could hide." Haley's jaw tightened. "You were different when you came back," she said. Landon nodded. "I was angry, confused, nightmares. And I started drinking. You and Mom fought all the time." "Too much," he agreed. "But I never raised a hand. Not once. Just raised my voice. And that was enough." Haley swallowed hard. "She told me you left. Then she told me you died. I never went to your funeral. There was no grave. I always thought that was weird." "Because it was," Landon said. "There was no funeral. Nobody. Just a lie." "Why?" "Because your mother didn't want to explain." "No. I didn't fight it. I figured maybe the world was better off without me." That line landed like weight on her chest. "You didn't even try?" she asked. "Not once. Not even a birthday card." Landon's hands were clenched now, hidden under the table. "I tried. First year. Sent letters. But nothing came back. No replies. Then a lawyer sent me a letter. Told me to stay away. Told me she got remarried. That you were better off. You believed that." "I wanted to believe it," he whispered. "Because if I didn't, I had to face what I'd lost." The steak arrived just then. Hot, perfect, medium rare. Haley didn't say a word. She placed the plate down gently, then slid into the seat across from him. "I had a dad," she said. "A stepdad. He wasn't kind. He didn't like that I asked questions. Or that I remembered you." Landon's fork paused midair. "You remember me?" Haley nodded. "I remember your beard scratching my forehead when you hugged me goodnight. I remember how you'd lift me with one arm and call me my peanut. And I remember that tattoo on your wrist. I used to trace it with my finger when you tucked me in." Landon couldn't speak. He just nodded, eyes full, throat tight. "I didn't laugh because of how you looked," she added suddenly. "What?" "When you walked in earlier. I laughed because I was tired. 'Cause I was bitter. And yeah, because I judged. But not you. Not really." "I'm not mad," he said quietly. "You had every right to laugh." "I was told my father was dead," she said. "So I buried him." "Buried you? And now you're here. I don't even know what to feel." Landon took a slow sip of water. "I don't expect anything, Haley. I just needed to see that you were real. That you were safe." She looked away for a moment, blinking hard. "I'm not safe," she whispered. "I'm just surviving." The clock ticked above the soda machine. The cook shouted an order. The radio played a sad country ballad about a truck and a woman and something lost. But in that booth at that moment, something old was starting to rise. Something called truth. And truth never came easy. Haley didn't speak for a while. Her eyes were locked on her hands, fingers twisting the corner of a napkin until it tore. Landon's steak sat untouched. He hadn't come for food. He'd come for something that couldn't be ordered off a menu. Did you ever? She started but stopped. He waited. Did you ever think about just showing up? Like this? Sooner? Landon leaned forward. I did. Every birthday. Every February 14th I thought about it. I even drove to town once. Sat outside your school. Haley blinked, startled. You did. I saw you walking out with a backpack. Pink. Had stars on it. You were with your mom and that man. Your stepdad, I guess. She looked down. That man. I hated him, she muttered. Landon's fingers curled slightly. Not tight. Just enough to feel the truth. He hurt you. She didn't answer. But she didn't have to. I didn't know, he said. If I had. What would you have done, she cut in. You would have marched in, fists raised. You didn't even fight for custody. You disappeared. I know, he whispered. The air between them grew heavy, like old memories piling on the table, one after another. You know what I remember most about you, she asked. What? You used to build blanket forts. Every Friday night. You'd crawl inside with me with a flashlight and a book. You'd do the voices, every single one. Landon smiled just a little. I used to love doing that. I thought it was stupid at the time. But after you left, I used to hide under the blankets alone. And wait. Just in case you came back. That smile faded, and pain took its place. I'm sorry, he said. You didn't deserve that. No kid does, she replied. But I survived. The bell above the diner door jingled again. A tall woman in a blazer walked in, phone glued to her ear. Haley stood up fast. Bathroom, she muttered to Landon. Don't move. She darted into the back hall, past the freezer, into the small employee lounge. She shut the door and slid down the wall, chest heaving. For 13 years, she'd built a version of her life where her father was dead. That version made sense. It gave her permission to feel abandoned, and to pretend it wasn't anyone's fault. But now he was here, alive, and hurting, just like her. Back in the dining room, Landon finally picked up his fork, took one bite of steak, closed his eyes. Tasted like memory. Like the one night a year he and his brother used to save up money to take their mom out to a cheap steakhouse just outside of St. Louis. It tasted like normal life. Something he hadn't had in a very, very long time. 10 minutes later, Haley returned. Her cheeks were flushed, eyes red. But her ponytail was still up, and her hands no longer shook. I want answers, she said, sliding back into the booth. Real ones. You deserve them. Tell me everything. From the day you left, to the day you walked in here. Landon took a long breath, then began. I came home in 2011. War was done for me. But it wasn't done in my head. One of a woman smiling in a field. And one of a cartoon drawing, done in crayon. A little girl holding a man's hand. That one, Landon said, pointing to the drawing. You made it. You were 6. Haley stepped in slowly. I remember this. You said it was your superhero dad picture. She sat down on the edge of the cot. Why didn't you ask for help? I did. Few times. But pride's a louder voice when you're hurting. And shame doesn't sleep easy. They sat there for a while, not speaking. Then Landon said, You know what I miss most? What? Your voice. Reading bedtime stories. You used to change your tone like I did. You were dramatic even back then. She smiled just a little. I still do that. When I read menus to people. He laughed. You got that from me, huh? Guess so. Then her smile faded. Landon. He turned to her. I want you to come live with me. He froze. What? I mean it. I've got a spare room. It's small. There's still boxes in it. But it has heat. A door that locks. A real bed. He shook his head slowly. I can't. Why not? Because you don't owe me that. I don't. But I'm not offering because I owe you. I'm offering because I want to. He looked away. And his voice dropped. There's something I didn't tell you. Haley sat straighter. What? I'm sick. She blinked. What do you mean sick? Via diagnosed me 6 months ago. Liver damage. Years of bad habits finally catching up. They told me I'd need a transplant eventually. I don't qualify. Her throat tightened. You're dying. Not today. But yeah, eventually. The room went silent again. But not the painful kind. The kind where reality makes you sit still and feel everything at once. She reached over and placed her hand over his. He didn't move. You're still coming home with me, she said. The next morning, Haley stood at the diner counter in a clean apron, hair tied back, face still but calm. The manager, Rita, handed her a slip of paper. Some guy called. Said your shift's covered today. Said you're taking a family day. Sounded serious. Haley smiled. Yeah, she said. It is. She clocked out, picked up 2 coffees, and walked back outside, where Landon waited on the curb, wearing a fresh shirt she bought him from the thrift store across the street. He looked awkward, uncertain, hopeful. She handed him a coffee. Let's go home, she said. It had been 4 days since Landon moved in. 4 days since his cot in a storage unit was replaced by a creaky but clean twin bed in the back room of Haley's apartment. There were still boxes in the corner, a coat hanger missing 2 hooks, and a window that didn't quite close all the way. But to Landon it felt like a palace. He folded his blanket every morning, washed his own mug, took short, quiet showers, and spoke only when he needed to. Haley watched him, not in a judgmental way, not like a child checking on a stray dog, but like someone trying to see what 13 lost years had done, and what could still be saved. Saturday morning, she asked him to come with her to Rivertown Diner, not to eat but just to sit. I want to be seen with you, she said. You sure that's smart, he asked. I'm not looking for smart, she replied. I'm looking for right. The diner wasn't full, but it wasn't empty either. 3 church families, 1 couple from out of town, and a table of older men in caps, regulars who always drank their coffee black and their opinions louder than necessary. Haley walked in first. Landon followed, his steps slow, shoulders back. No hat, no hood, just him. They sat at booth 3, the one near the jukebox. Whispers started early. Is that her dad? Thought he died. Did you see his coat? Haley heard it all. She just smiled and poured sugar into her coffee like the air wasn't buzzing around her. Then came the moment. George Whitman, retired cop, leaned back in his chair and muttered a little too loud. Looks more like a hitchhiker than a father. The table chuckled. Haley stood, walked to their table, and didn't raise her voice. You see that man sitting over there? She asked. They blinked. Yeah. That's Landon James Cummings. My father. A U.S. Army veteran, Purple Heart recipient, and someone who's been through more hell than your Sunday sermon could describe. One of the men opened his mouth. He kept going. He's also the man who used to carry me on his shoulders, who read me bedtime stories in silly voices, the man who tattooed my birthday on his wrist so he'd never forget me, even when the world told him he should. The diner went quiet. Haley took a breath. I laughed at him once, judged him once, but never again, 'cause now I know better. And now, so do you. She turned, walked back to her table and sat down. Landon didn't say a word. He just looked at her like she'd handed him something priceless. 'Cause she had. After breakfast they stepped outside. Wind a little colder now. Sun a little brighter. Landon leaned against the truck. You didn't have to do that, he said. Yes, Haley said. I did. He looked down at his wrist. I got this tattoo the day you were born. Why? Because the nurse handed you to me and said, better never forget this moment. So I walked out of the hospital, crossed the street, and sat in a parlor chair for 2 hours while your mom yelled at me by text. Haley laughed. It was the first laugh that didn't hurt in days. The apartment was quiet that night. Haley had the next morning off, so she let herself do something rare. Breathe. No apron. No orders to remember. No sarcastic remarks stored up behind her teeth. Just her, a blanket, and an old show on mute. From the hallway she heard a drawer open, then close. A step. Her bedroom door creaked open slowly. Haley! Landon's voice was soft, hesitant. Yeah, she called. I'm heading to bed. Left something on the table. For tomorrow. Just a note. She peeked over the couch. You good? He nodded. Just tired. Good kind of tired though. Night. Night. She waited a few minutes, then got up to grab water from the kitchen. That's when she saw the envelope. Plain. Folded. Handwritten in block letters. If I'm not here tomorrow, don't go looking. Just read this first. Her breath caught. She sat at the table. Slid her finger under the fold. The letter wasn't long, but it hit like a freight train. Haley, I didn't want you to find this until I was gone. Not because I'm running again. Not. But because if something happens, I need you to know one last thing. I never stopped loving you. I never stopped hoping that one day I'd see you again, even if it meant watching from far away. Even if it meant carrying the guilt like a second skin. When I first saw you in the diner, I thought maybe I'd lost my mind. But then I saw the way you stood, one hand on your hip the way your mom used to. And I knew. You were mine. You still are. Always. I know I didn't earn back your trust. Maybe never will. But you gave me something no one else ever did. You let me sit at your table. That meant everything. If I'm not here tomorrow, don't think I walked out. Just think I finally rested. And if I am here, don't talk about this letter. Just let it be what it is. She stared at the page for a long time, then folded it carefully. She didn't cry. Not yet. She just walked quietly to the back hallway and opened his door. Landon was there, laying on his side, one arm folded under his head, the other resting across his chest. His breathing was steady. His eyes were open. I told you not to read it yet, he said. Haley leaned against the doorframe. I didn't listen. I got that from Mom. He gave a soft laugh. She stepped into the room. Sat down on the edge of the bed. You're not going anywhere, she said. Didn't plan to. Not tonight. Good. Beat past. Then she added. Also, I forgive you. He didn't respond right away. Didn't need to. He just reached for her hand. And she let him. Fingers rough and cracked. Hers small and shaking. And for the first time since she was a child, Haley held her father's hand and didn't feel the weight of what was missing. She felt what had finally come home. 3 days later, Landon took a part-time job sweeping at the bus station downtown. It wasn't much. $7 an hour under the table. Broom. Radio. A locker that didn't close all the way. But it was his. Haley had offered to cover rent for a while. He said no. I need to stand for something. Even if it's just a clean sidewalk. That Wednesday, the air was thick and humid. Like the sky was sweating from somewhere deep inside. Landon was halfway through cleaning out the waiting benches when it happened. Sharp pain. Then heat in his side. Then everything went sideways. He gripped the bench for balance. Then the floor caught him. Hard. Back at the diner, Haley's phone rang. She saw the number. Unknown. She almost ignored it. But something in her chest told her not to. Haley Cummings. Yes. This is Memorial Hospital. Your father's been brought in. Her mouth went dry. He what? He collapsed. He's awake but not stable. Can you come now? She was out the door in seconds. Didn't grab her purse. Didn't tell Rita. Didn't even lock the register. Just ran. At the hospital, the smell hit her first. Sterile. Cold. That mix of bleach and fear. She found room 204B. He was sitting up. Ill. hooked to wires. Is tired but calm. I told you not to worry, he said softly. She blinked hard. You passed out on a city bench, Landon. I get to worry. He gave a slow nod. Fair. The nurse came in, an older woman with kind eyes and a tired smile. He's lucky, she said. Liver's failing but slowly. Could be months, could be more. But we've got to be real careful now. He can't skip meds. Can't skip food. Can't keep pushing himself like he's still 35. Haley nodded. I'll make sure he doesn't. The nurse smiled. I believe you. That night, Haley stayed in the hospital room. She pulled a chair up beside the bed, crossed her legs, and held a styrofoam cup of bad coffee like it was the only thing keeping her steady. Landon looked over at her. You don't have to stay. I know. But you are. I am. Why? She looked at him for a long time, then said, because I spent 13 years thinking you were gone. And now I have you again. So I'm not wasting another minute pretending I don't care. He reached over, pulled the hospital blanket up around his chest. I used to sing you to sleep, you know. I remember. You always asked for the same song. You are my sunshine. You'd cry if I skipped the second verse. Haley smiled, tears forming. You said it was the only thing that made me stop climbing out of bed. He chuckled. It was. You were the slipperiest kid I ever met. She leaned forward. Sing it now. He blinked. What? Sing it. He hesitated. Then, slowly, voice cracking, he began. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. She joined in. You make me happy when skies are gray. When they finished, the room was quiet. Not because it needed to be, but because everything had been said, without needing more words. 2 weeks later, Landon came home from the hospital. Weak but walking. Quiet but present. Alive but not for long. The doctors didn't say much. They didn't need to. Haley could see it. Every step slower. Every breath a little shorter. Every smile held a little longer, like he was memorizing the world before it left. He started writing again. Short notes, bits of poems, one-liners scribbled on diner napkins and receipts. When Haley asked why, he said, because when I go quiet, I want something to keep speaking for me. One Sunday evening, Haley clocked out of her shift and saw Landon sitting in the exact same booth he first arrived at. Table 9. The one near the window. The one she used to hate waiting on. Now, she didn't hate it anymore. She walked over, dropped into the seat across from him and asked, You still remember my order? He smirked. Pancakes. No butter. Extra syrup. Side of sarcasm. She laughed, then paused. You tired? Always. No, I mean tired. Landon looked out the window. I've been tired since 2011. But this is different. This is the kind you make peace with. That night, Haley brought him home, tucked him into bed for the first time, and kissed his forehead. For the first time since she was a kid. He didn't say much, just whispered, always keep her safe. And then he slept, and never woke up. The funeral was small. Diner staff, one via nurse, the manager from the storage unit, and Haley, standing still with her hands in her coat pockets, holding a folded flag they handed her at the end. No big speeches. Just a song playing low in the chapel. You are my sunshine. 2 weeks later, Haley returned to work. It was hard. The booth was still there. So was the window. But the silence hurt now. Until one night the place was packed and someone shouted, Hey, where's that guy that used to sit by the window? Looked like a grandpa who lost a wrestling match with a tumbleweed. The table laughed. But Haley stood up behind the counter. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't shout. She just said, That was my dad. The room froze. She walked out from behind the counter, wiping her hands on her apron. His name was Landon James Cummings. He was a veteran, fighter, a man who made mistakes, But also the man who wrote my name on 100 napkins when I was gone. The man who tattooed my birthday on his wrist so he'd never forget what mattered. And the man who walked through shame and silence just to sit in this booth and see me smile one last time. The table didn't laugh anymore. Nobody did. Haley looked at the booth. Then back at them. Next time you see someone who looks like they've lost a few battles, maybe ask what they were fighting for, before you decide to laugh. She walked away. Left the room full of silence. The good kind. The kind that teaches something. That same night after closing, Haley walked to booth 9 and sat down alone. She pulled a napkin from the holder and wrote 6 words. He sat here,